Bandwidth for First Updates Now is supported by Loot Crate. Save 10% on a new subscription and score some epic geek and gamer gear by going to trylootcrate.com/First Updates Now. Enter promo code BRIDGE10 for 10% savings. This is First Updates Now Recap, episode 1613, recorded on July 12th, 2016. Recap is brought to you by AndyMark. The season might be over, but now is a great time to stock up for the 2017 season and for off-season events. Head on over to AndyMark.com for great products and deals.
Hey guys, it's Tyler from First Updates Now. We're back with team number 1241, Theory 6 out of Canada. You guys have an amazing robot out here today. You're performing fantastically in the noon division.
I think that's me.
What do you think attributes to your success that you've had here so far, both at regionals and at championships?
For this year, we want to try something different. Last year, we knew we bit off quite a bit more than we could chew, and we're a little bit unorganized in how we ran our season. So we decided to make this whole playbook essentially outlining all our goals and all our requirements for the entire season, from like pre-season straight to off-season, and an extremely detailed list of what to do through the build season. So with that, we kept the schedule. Like, our mentors are really hard pressing the students, because most of us are seniors, are in grade 12 right now. Hard pressing the students just to make sure that they hit all those goals, and we hit a lot of late nights. And because of that, we had a lot of practice time. We actually finished our, one of our robots week 4. So we had like lots and lots of practice time, like 6/10 place. So that was really nice, and that helps us success a lot. For some reason, even though we finished week 4, we still got a lot of tuning and prototyping time. We got a little bit of inspiration from the Cheesy Poos, and we actually made our own prototype wood rod, and that helped us a lot too.
And speaking about the amazing accuracy and the shooting prowess of your robot, can you tell us a little bit more about the turret and your shooter and what went into that?
So for the shooter, we decided to focus on consistency and accuracy. So as you can see here, there's this popper mechanism that has a linear piston that pushes the ball up. And in order to make sure the ball is always in the same orientation when you're shooting it up, there's little guards here that ensure that the ball is always in the same place, no matter if we're getting defended or if people are hitting us. So we're essentially unblockable. And we're talking about the high robot just for this reason, because a high robot gives a much better trajectory for a ball, because the higher the robot is, the better trajectory you have, and the harder it is for other teams to block you, in comparison to the lower robots, where the trajectory follows a much greater arc and it's much easier to block. And we decided to go with a fixed angle shooter because we want to reduce the number of variables we have. In order to vary our shots, we just vary our RPM instead. So for batter, we have a different RPM, and for our other shots around the courtyard, we have a different RPM. So it gives a lot of versatility with our shooter. And the turret mechanism uses camera tracking, which has worked really well. I think it was like a bit of a risk to take to go with a turret, but I think it worked out really well because our controls team did an exceptional job doing the camera tracking and the vision tracking, and we had tons of time to tune it. So
the reason why some of that worked is because we got lucky. They actually wanted to play with a lot. They decided to play with camera tracking during this preseason just because I thought it'd be useful, and it ended up being our entire game. So that was awesome. It's really nice because they actually got it down to around half a degree of accuracy for that turret. So it's really nice. Our driver just lines up roughly. Our tool up presses the button, and they're ready to shoot.
Well, you guys are right now on the noon division, an extremely tough division you guys are in. It's a very deep division, but you guys are right up there in the top 8. I believe, looking at the standings, you guys got a great shot to be in the top 8 spot. Now everybody knows in the first round, typically you're looking for a top scorer, that sort of thing like that. But if you guys are going to be an alliance captain, what are you looking for in a second and third round robot coming through? What kind of robot do you believe will be compatible with you guys?
So our first pick would ideally be a shooter and a hanger, and for the second round we want a robot that can feed us balls, and preferably can go for a hang. If not, a feeder and a breacher would be ideal, because we can focus on shooting while they pass us balls, and we can do our thing, and they can be compatible with us because we're focusing on shooting.
Them going into the low bar would be nice too, considering that our robot can't do that, and that's kind of the only defense we actually can't traverse.
Well, you guys are doing a great job here so far. An amazing robot you guys have here. Congrats on making it to the FRC Top 25 this year, and good luck to you guys the rest of the way. Thank you.
Well, good evening, everybody. It's time for First Updates Now Recap, where we're here to discuss the latest on what's going on in First Robotics, and I'm Tyler Olds.
I'm Justin Montoys.
And Mike is out for this evening, but we got a fantastic show for you here today. IRI, arguably one of the most competitive events, is coming up this weekend, and we'll recap some of the other off-season events coming up, and we'll briefly discuss what's circulating in the FRC community.
So we're certainly excited about that, Tyler, but before we get to it, let's introduce our guest for this evening. He's a robotics engineer at the NASA Johnson Space Center, a 2016 Woody Flowers Finalist Award winner, and drive team coach of the 2015 World Champions. Please welcome from the legendary Team 118, the Robonauts, Mason Markee. Welcome to the show, Mason.
Hey guys, thanks for having me. Happy to be a part of it.
Glad to have you on, Mason. I got to ask, you work at NASA. I'm sure many are jealous because you're just driving that MRV vehicle around all day. But can you get a little bit more into what you do at NASA?
Yeah, I got one of those really cool jobs where I just love what I do every day. We're basically building up different robots for different space missions, trying to look at technology that's 10 years out, 20 years out that are going to help NASA to better our missions whenever we go back to the moon and Mars. But in doing that, sometimes we need to fund ways to develop our technology. So we partner up with other companies who have a problem to solve that overlaps kind of with our space problems, and we find that common ground and come up with a project for the two of us. So like MRV, that was a project that we worked with an automobile company to build an electric car, but underneath the hood, that's all rover technology. So my job is basically take these abstract concepts and work with a team of other engineers, mostly old firsters, to come up with a solution to these crazy problems and then build it. And usually in a really short amount of time with not enough money, just like in FIRST.
So you get a bunch of firsters you mentioned on there. So you guys bring in a bunch of interns then, or how does that work?
Yeah, every year we have a whole team of interns who come up to our shop. Right now I think we got like a dozen, mostly from other Houston towns, but we've pulled people from all over Texas. And then we get people who just want to work for NASA who are a part of FIRST. So we got guys from Indiana, we got a lot of guys from Michigan in our lab, and it just keeps growing and growing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, awesome to hear, man. Well, let's get right into it with a quick recap of some of the off-season events that went on in the FIRST community in the last couple of months. While it would take way too long to cover them all, we decided to take a few into detail and present them here today. So, Justin, what are you starting us out with right now?
So I'm going to start at Battlecry WPI. This was back in May, and 195, the Cyberknights picked up right where they left off during the season to take the top spot in their draft. They picked up the odd IRI oversight in 2791 and also picked up 501 at the tail end of the draft and headed into the playoffs. Scores in the elimination rounds were averaging over 200 points, and the number one alliance was setting the pace throughout those playoff rounds. The alliance was easily able to dispatch the number 8 alliance. All challengers actually in the first 2 rounds, and they were scoring high, and the teams that they were beating were scoring high as well, so a lot of talent at the event. In the finals, though, the number 1 alliance had to face the number 3 alliance of 33-14, 166, and 39-58. After a great first match of 237 to 225, again, very close matches, the number 1 alliance was able to take the win. And the same held true in the second match that wasn't as close, but the number 1 alliance was able to put away the number 3 alliance to again capture another victory for 195.
All right, we're going to move on to Midnight Mayhem, which took place on June 25th, just a couple of weeks ago here. Event hosted by 1923, the Midnight Inventors with 36 teams in Plainsboro, New Jersey. A standard off-season rule change was in effect, but a really cool rule called the Mayhem rule, which provided 2 brightly colored Mayhem boulders were placed on the center line at the start of each match and counted for 2 scores in both the high and low goals, but then were taken out afterwards. So with puppies galore at the event, not to be distracted and taking the number 1 spot, was 225 Tech Fire, selecting perennial top contender in 1640 Sabotage, along with 2607 the Fighting Robo Vikings and 4954 Palindrome Robotics. Posting scores in the high 100s, the number 1 alliance blazed their way into the finals to face the number 6 seed of 2016, 1218, 193, and 293. Red Alliance would take the first match handily, and in the second finals match, we saw a lot more commotion in the middle of the field, where 1218 Vulcan Robotics played some very tough defense, but it would just not be enough, as the outerworks precision of 225 and 1640 would seal it for Red and take the win at Midnight Mayhem. And we're going to see those 2 teams, 225 and 1640, at IRI this weekend. I can't wait to see what they're going to bring.
Yeah, I mean, these off-season events we're talking about, a lot of tune-up events for a lot of teams we're going to see at IRI, and I'm going to talk about a couple of them right here. So this year marked the 10th anniversary of the Michigan Advanced Robotics Invitational, or the MARC they call it, and it was one of the best ones yet. We saw scores as high as 165 in the qualification rounds. Once in the elimination rounds, alliances started to gel and scores shot into the 200s in the very first round as the number 1 alliance of 494, 1718, and 1528 were able to dispatch the number 8 alliance and move into the semifinals. On the opposite side of the bracket, the number 2 alliance was able to take out the number 7 alliance. However, both of those top seeds would run into trouble in the semifinals. The number 3 alliance of 503, 3641, and 5436 were able to defeat the number 1 alliance. On the other side, the number 4 alliance of 2834, 2337, and 5695 were able to defeat the number 2 alliance to set up a great final. In the first match, the number 3 alliance was able to take the win with an impressive 200 to 128. In the second match, however, was much closer with just 1 point separating the two teams, but the result was the same as the number 4 alliance of Frog Force, the Flying Toasters, and the Cybercat were able to take the win. So a good tune-up for a few Michigan teams we'll see this weekend at IRI.
All right, last event we're going to cover is the Texas Robotics Invitational. It took place once again a couple weeks ago, June 24th to June 25th. Mason, definitely going to want to get some input from you here. As we talked about in the past, though, one of the reasons I really wanted to highlight this event, not just because it's a competitive event, but all-season events are an amazing opportunity to take advantage of trying out new initiatives for the FIRST community. So a couple events implemented video replay, and TRI was one of those events that implemented in the playoffs. And here's the gist of it and how it worked at that event. Each alliance was provided with one video review coupon that they could use to challenge what, quote, match-affecting calls. This was defined as defense crossings, challenges, scales, auto points, G13 for the auto center line, G28 for courtyard contact in the last 20 seconds, boulder scored, and yellow and red cards. The head referee would view only with the event provided video, and no outside sources would be allowed. It was actually permitted to call their own review at any time as well. Indisputable video evidence must be present in order to change the call. In the entire event, though, video replay was only called into action once, and actually was pretty held low-key. For a potential missed defense crossing, the call was upheld by the referee. Now, baby steps are required to start this process, and I would like to comment to the TRI crew and other off-season events and give them big kudos for getting the ball rolling and being the beta testers for this technology. Whether you like it or not, having new things and testing them out, seeing if they work, or if they don't work, helps us mold the way for FIRST for the future. And I want to be right not to talk about one of the most competitive off-season events in FRC this year, with many teams looking to make a deep run. But the number 1 seed with 118 and 148 looked to make a very deep run, but it was the number 4 seed of 30-41, 38-47, 25-85, and 58-29, knocking off the number 1 seed in the semis to face the number 2 seed of 30-05, 12-96, 59-86, and 43-35 in the finals. Number 4 Red Alliance had trouble gaining traction, starting in auto, and with tough defense of 59-86 in the Blue Alliance, Blue would take the win with a 177-75 victory. Match 2 saw Red come out a bit stronger with issues from the Blue defensive robot in 43-35 being hung up on a boulder for half the match. As Red looked to take the lead, 58-29's bumper nearly fell off with 60 seconds left, and they made a decision to go up on the batter to secure the capture for their alliance. Red would look strong with a hang, but with 1 second left, 43-35 was able to fully recover and get themselves onto the batter that earned them a capture for the Blue Alliance and win with a score of 160-133. So big congrats to the winners of TRI and 1296 Full Metal Jackets, 3005 Robochargers, 5986 Iron Fangs, and 4335 Metallic Clouds. So Mason, you were at TRI with 118 competing there. Can you tell us a little about the event, what you liked about it, any teams you want to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I mean, it's always a really good event. It's great to have one. It's local to Houston, so it's a trip we can just go to for the day, which is really fun. 118 and 148 pairing up, on paper it looks like an unbeatable alliance, but, this really just shows why this game is unique, that you need 3 robots running all the time to put together an effective alliance. We had 148 have some comm issues and not come back to life in one of the matches, and then another, our third partner got stuck on a defense, and, you got to have 3 robots moving. With capturing being so valuable at the end of the match, it's almost like a death penalty if you have a robot die towards the end of the match where they're not going to be able to get up on there, or a bumper fall off and them get disabled. That's killer. Yeah. But really, you got to give a shout out to 1296. I mean, these guys, Mittens was their robot. It's this tiny little robot. It's adorable, really. When you see it in person, it looks like a Vex robot or something. It's so small. but they've been working hard all season. At Champs, they could have gone really deep. I mean, they had all the right elements. Things just didn't quite work out. So I was really happy to see them playing at their all-star level. They're using the Pixie Cam for their vision tracking, and it's incredibly impressive how they're simply just porting that analog signal into their Robo Rio and using that to center up, and it just works. And it's amazing when their vision system's running. I mean, they made, I don't know, it was like 11 for 13 in one match that I watched. I mean, that robot has finally turned it on. Better late than never, right?
Yeah, I guess. So, did you were you involved at all with the instant replay call, or you have any instances where you thought it was, at least as a drive coach, was it nice to have that as an option? Did you feel like you could have leaned on, or do you have any discussions about using it, or do you thought that it was kind of maybe a non-issue for most of the event?
First of all, I gotta say, I wasn't drive coaching it. We offloaded that to one of our up-and-coming students and let him take charge and get an experience back there. But I think part of it is that when you have that looming challenge being an option, the refs really want to pay a lot more attention because they know that their decisions are going to get upheld. I mean, I've definitely been on the wrong receiving end of a few bad calls that I know were the wrong call. And it's really unfortunate. I think that video replay can be introduced in a way that doesn't add a lot of overhead to the game and just makes the right call get made every time. So I'm happy to see these baby steps getting taken. The system's never going to be perfect, but I think this is a move in the right direction.
I agree.
Awesome. And, as we look towards other events too, I'm not sure if any others are going to be using video replay moving forward, but it's definitely, it's been a conversation topic. We know we had Frank on the show a couple times where, right now I know that's not an avenue that they're directly looking at right now, as we talked about, video quality in general with things. But as I mentioned, the more that, we can do things in off-season events, and that's kind of the beauty of FIRST, right, is that you can take that, if you want to run an off-season event and do whatever the heck you want, go ahead and do it, and be able to, show results of things, and whether it's good or bad, it doesn't matter. At least we're getting new technologies implemented. New technology, video replay, right? I mean, it's been around for 100 years now. But, in the FIRST community, there's been a lot of people asking for that. At least vocal people have been asking for that. And I think one of the things that are interesting, too, to refer back to when Frank was on Spotlight a month ago or so, is that he mentioned that, they did surveys for a lot of these things, and not necessarily talking about video replay, but when talking about districts and a few other things, that not all the RDs are interested in that, and not all the teams are interested in that. And, some of the survey evidence they got back is different than what we see on Cheap Delphi or other social media platforms as well, because many of those people tend to be very vocal. There's many people who are not, and it will be interesting to see moving forward how the community reacts if video replay becomes more implemented specifically at off-season events.
Yeah, and I mean, you got to avoid the problem of replaying every match,
yes,
and taking the head ref's time, and you don't want to add more volunteers either, more equipment to set up, and so yeah, there's obstacles. But man, remember in 2013 when 1477 they counted the frisbees wrong? And,
yeah, that was crazy.
There was some crazy stuff there. So, and all that could have been fixed, and it was the right call to make, because they had scored the points. The frisbees went in, couldn't deny it.
That's right.
All right, so that's going to be a look at our recap of our events. If you have other events you'd like us to talk about in the future, go ahead and feel free to email us at firstupdatesnow@gmail.com. So let's take a break to thank our sponsor for today's show. That's Andy Markee, and know him, you'll love him. And first off, if you're watching this on Tuesday, make sure you stop by their Tuesday Deals page on today, July 12th. If you select Tuesday Deals, you're going to get some amazing deals on all different sorts of wheels. You might not even want wheels, but, just buy a bunch and put them up on your wall. Something like that looks cool, right? So go ahead and do something like that. And here's another cool product that I do want to tune you in on. If you're an FTC, you're probably familiar with this, but the Euroboard panel, and this is now available for FRC needs as well. And the Euroboard panels, if you've seen it in person, it's a really nice, pleasing aesthetic display. It's a light, flexible material that can be used in many applications where you would typically use polycarb, but want some additional flair and style. So go ahead and go to andymark.com if you're attending IRI. You can also click that Ship the Pit. I believe that's available through the end of business day tomorrow, so I believe that's 5 Eastern. So if you're attending IRI, regardless if you're a team or even if you don't have a team there, you can pick up with free shipping by doing Ship the Pit or ship to the kiosk at Andy Mark, and they'll have some cool stuff for you to check out at IRI as well. And we do thank Andy Mark for their continued support of First Updates Now.
So it looks like with all the wheels available today, it looks like next year's FRC game, no wheels, right? Andy Mark's trying to clear stock.
Spoiler. No, or it's going to be like 2009, right? Where you have everybody has to use the same
Forced wheels, yeah.
Yes. So.
Monkey bars. Monkey bars 2017. You heard it here first.
Confirmed. All right, so our main discussion today is about the Indiana Robotics Invitational event coming up this weekend. Hope you guys get a chance to tune in on that. There is the webcast has been posted recently, so make sure you go ahead to IndianaRoboticsInvitational.org to check out the webcast for that. So we got a lot of stuff going on here, right, guys? For IRI, we have I believe 60 some odd teams attending the event. We have a lot of interesting rule changes, and we want to get some predictions as well. So why don't we start with some of the teams, Mason, if I can start with you. Out of the teams there, many teams you probably know and have had a chance to make good friends with. Are there any teams that kind of pop out to you that maybe wouldn't necessarily be the first ones you think about?
I really like 16. I know it's first on your list, so you think I'm just being lazy and just reading from the top. But, we got the chance to play with them at the Alabama Regional, and I think they just always had all the elements. Their shot was just a little bit low, a little bit inconsistent. They go home, they work on that shot a little bit, and I think they're just unstoppable. They were so fast around the field to pick up balls. They were so quick over the defenses. They were just missing the consistent shot, and there were times when they had it, and it was just like unreal. So I think that they're my robot that nobody's thinking about. Of course, we're all thinking about the bomb squad always, but I think they're great. If I had to pick someone I think is going to win, it's going to be 2056 because they're 2056. This game comes down to robustness. The past couple of years at IRI, excluding 2015 where we didn't touch each other, but like in 2014, 2013, the game got very violent at IRI. Every robot on the field during the eliminations has an amazing drivetrain. They're not afraid to use it, so there's just no mercy. And 2056 builds a robot that can take that beating. Yeah. I know the rest of us try to build that robot, but the rest of us are always falling apart at the end of IRI, and they're not. And I think, in this game, it really is going to matter. Those are the two I really want to give a shout out. I'm looking forward to seeing the beach bots up close. That's a robot that I didn't even take the time to lay eyes on at championships. And the only time I really saw them play was on Einstein, and they put up, probably my favorite match I've ever seen in all of FRC, where they're falling over twice, still pulling out the win, and that was just unreal. So I'm hoping they bring that spunk to IRI and really show off.
We're hoping for a repeat of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Somebody put some Vaseline on the bar so that they slip off just for the show.
Wow. Cole Pioli's not at the event, sorry. So, Justin, any teams that pop out to you at all?
I'm going to give a shout out to a local team. It's their first trip to IRI, Team 1511 Rolling Thunder, and I'll tell you why. So changing the tower strength to 12, 1511, if you don't know, is a low bot or a logo only robot. So I think that increasing the tower strength to 12 really, even though they're a logo only robot, I think it gives them an increased value, because not every team at the event, even though it's IRI, not every alliance is going to be able to put 12 balls into the high goal every time. So in the qualification rounds, at least, when you don't have those kind of all-star alliances in every single match, I think a team like 1511 could show up in that top 8 just as a robot that's very, very good at putting balls into the low goal. And I think that increased tower strength definitely helps them out a little bit. I know there's some other good low goal teams at the event as well. I think.
Well, one of the ones I was going to mention, Team Dave is probably one that really pops out for something like that. Yeah, and that's what I was going to mention is, and this would be a good segue to talk about with the 12 ball tower strength in just a bit. But yeah, Team Dave to me, I think we are going to see some low ball teams have success, and we'll get into some predictions in regards to how that works in a little bit. Another team I want to point out is 133 Burt. They actually lost to the world champions in the finals of their division, a team that I know, Justin, you and I have talked about a couple times on the FRC Top 25, but it's just really fallen under the radar for a lot. And they have an extremely strong team, a very good high goal shot, and just overall just a strong team. And I think they're going to be somebody who really squeaks through. And if they're not an alliance captain, they could fall and be a second-round pick potentially that nobody thinks or knows about. Well, maybe they do now, but not everybody watches the show, right? Another team I want to talk about, I don't know if they've really fallen through the cracks too much, but Theory 6 to me is they were probably my favorite team going to the championships, and we saw the interview with them earlier today, and that's why I want to talk about them a little bit. To me, they're still probably the best teleop shooter out there right now. The versatility their robot brings, the overall, the high trajectory shot that they have as well too, or low trajectory, right, because they're high up in the air. Just overall brings a very strong robot, and I look forward to seeing their performance at IRI.
Yeah, they play really smart too. You know, going through 2 sets of qualifications, once at Champs and once at Toronto with them. I mean, they know how to play the game. They know how to strategize every match. You know, T, their drive coach, takes it so seriously and really plans things out. So yeah, they could definitely go a long ways.
Yeah, I'm trying to look to see if there's any of the higher number. When we talk about Team Dave, they're in the 3,000s. Is there any of the super high number teams? No rookies this year, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, I'll say 4587 is Jersey Voltage. They're a Houston team, and they've got a really great shot. They won the Lone Star Regional with 118, but I've seen them practicing, and they're really knocking out some good stuff. And they put a 2-ball out on Chief. So yeah, I mean, you know, a big number team like that nobody's expecting, its first time at IRI, they could just come out and kill.
So let's move into, we talked about, Justin mentioned the tower strength, so some of the IRI rule changes are coming up, and I think the tower strength is definitely one to really go into. I think that's probably one of the biggest changes across from the defenses that are out there. So let's talk about that a little bit. 12, it's going to be both in qualification matches and in elimination matches. You're going to need to score 12 balls in order to get that tower strength down for a capture. So what do you guys see in regards to strategy, both in qualifications and elimination matches? How is that going to play out with all the different alliances? I think it's easy to think that with IRI, with so many great teams, we're going to see that captured every single match. I'm not sure if that's going to be the case.
I don't think so at all. I think teams, I really do think will almost go back to how the game was played early on, when the logo was so important and just getting that capture point was so important. And I think it's going to bite a lot of teams that are going to kind of think, not that they're necessarily better than they are, but they're just going to slightly overlook the importance of the difficulty of the 12 balls into the high goal. And I think a lot of teams are going to miss out on some easy, or relatively easy ranking points just because they're so focused on high goal. I think the alliances that do it well will make it look easy. But if you're in that mid-range where your alliance isn't maybe, filled with all the star-studded high-profile teams that are there, I think a lot of smart alliances are going to do very well with the low goal. With the logo scoring, and they're going to get that ranking points that some of these other alliances maybe are going to miss just because they're not, I don't want to say smart enough, but they're just not strategizing well enough to get that ranking point by going to the logo.
Yeah, I'm expecting going into IRI that our team is going to be chasing ranking points every time, and so there'll be a lot of opportunities. We're going to look at the match and say, let's go 3 robots on offense. Let's really try to go after the capture. And one of the challenges with this game is it gets crowded when you have 3 robots playing in that small shooting area, especially add in if the other alliance decides to throw some defense in there, it can get extremely congested. You can start fighting over balls. So I'm really going to be paying attention to planning out our strategies in the qualification matches with our partners to make sure that we're not running robots into each other and beating ourselves. We personally saw that problem at championships. Whenever we put 3 robots on offense, it just gets congested. I think people will also get so focused on trying to score more balls that they'll forget that they got to do all their crossings. I mean, when you talk about what it was like early weeks, and that was common. I mean, people would be so caught up in shooting that they would leave some crossing left open, which is silly, but if someone's not paying attention back there behind the glass, it can happen.
Sure.
So one of the things I definitely agree with you guys with regards to 12 tower. One of the things that pops in my mind is how is defense going to play out with having 12 to score. even in elims, I believe, at a certain point, that can be a little challenging. Now, we've seen that, at state champs and at championships that, easily 18 balls can be scored in a match. But you're also having teams that are, in many cases, playing together for the first time. They might not necessarily have their dry teams there. And with having 12 there, how do you guys view defense coming into play? Are we going to see it in elimination matches, and are we going to see it in quals? And how is it going to be played?
That's a really good question. I'm super curious to find out the answer to that as well. Because I do think there's some alliances where 2 scoring robots can put up 12, but I don't think it's ever a guarantee. When one of those robots gets shut down a bit, that's not going to happen. So I think alliances in general are going to tend towards putting 3 on offense. Speaking mostly in the eliminations, I think quals will be almost all offense. Yeah. Eliminations, I think most alliances are going to go with 3 on offense. I think that was what was really cool to me watching Einstein play out, is that we saw lots of different strategies. We saw 3 robots on offense. Even in the finals, we saw 2 robots on offense, 1 playing defense on 2056's alliance, and 330's alliance went 3 on offense, and it was neck and neck in both matches. And so I think the debate wasn't settled there, but now that the tower strength is higher, I think teams are going to tend more towards the 3 robots on offense.
So, real quick, Mason, I'm going to call you out, though, is I'm going to now predict that 2056 won't win, because you might not need as robust of a robot. There's going to be offensive robots.
That's fair, yeah. I'm mixing up stories here.
Get it straight. Justin?
So just to make that connection a little bit more, if you look at Finals Match 3 on Einstein, where, our alliance was playing, a 2-1, and the 330 alliance was playing 3 on offense, the Red Alliance, so the 330 Alliance, put up 17 balls into the high goal. We put up 16 into the high goal. So it shows that both strategies are viable with scoring lots of points or lots of balls into the high goal, but also doesn't leave you with 12 as the match number. It doesn't leave you a whole lot of room for error. And I know that if you look at the match video, there was definitely more than 4 missed shots on both sides. So if you kind of repeat that again, then you're getting into a situation where you're not going to get the capture. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays on. I think the alliance that recognizes how the game needs to be played at IRI and makes the adaptation well is going to be the alliance that ends up winning.
Go ahead, Mason.
Oh, I just say that's a great point. Like, I do think that, people are going to play the game slow, see how it plays out at IRI, and make adjustments right there. And I love how you get there's so many good robots at IRI that your 4th robot, you can insert them anytime you want. So you can pick a great score in the 3rd round, and you can pick a great defensive bot in the 4th round, or maybe another good score in the 4th round. But you can change your strategy based on who you put on the field. So it could be really cool.
And one of the things maybe to add on to that, I think it will be interesting, talking about rule changes, IRI, we know that they use the legacy rules when it comes to alliance selections, where we go 1 through 8, and then for the final pick, the 8 through 1. And I think what comes to my mind is, how deep is the field really? And I like to think it is pretty deep, but when you start talking about our robots going to be able to, if 3 robots have to each score 6 boulders each, or something like that, to truly be competitive, are we going to see that deep of a field when it comes to, you're in the 2nd round, with the 7th and 8th seed, or 6th, 7th, and 8th seed, are they still going to be able to pick up a very high potency goal score? And I think maybe to Justin's point from before, I think that might leave the opportunity for a low goal robot to really come into play, a good low goal robot to really be picked there. And I kind of agree. I don't know how much defense we're going to play. What I actually see, though, is there's going to be a team that gets just completely demolished in the first match that they play against another alliance, and then they're going to just do that, throw the hands up in the air, we got to change everything, and then they're going to put a robot on defense. And that's kind of what I see it. Just to give a quick side story, one of the things that I think about when it comes to really good strategy, I think about Karthik a lot, right? And the amazing strategy stuff. But just to tell you a quick story, in 2012, when my team was at IRI in 28-26, we ended up picking 11-14, and half of it was just because of that big, beautiful brain that man has. And when we went when we went into the semifinals, we were actually playing against 2056, and we lost the first match. And immediately, one of the things I was thinking about, like, we got to change this, and this. And once again, that big, beautiful brain that man has, actually looked at video replay that he took, noticed a weakness and a tendency in the other alliance, and we ended up exploiting it. And that's that sort of thing to me, having that clear mindset to me is what makes successful teams and what could see a low seed potentially upset a high seed.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the benefits of IRI. Like you were just saying, like, yes, it is IRI and you think the field is super deep, but it's not always as deep as you think. And I think a lot of these younger teams that are going to IRI for the first time, like 15-11, I think getting them the opportunity to play, even 30-15, even us, like getting the opportunity for these young teams that are trying to get to that next level to play with the Symbotics, to play with the 118s, to play with the Wave Robotics, and learn. And just I think, I don't know who else was on your alliance at the time, but if you're in that conversation with Karthik and you learn and you see what he's doing, or you're behind the glass with Mason and you can learn from these great people, I think it's just such a benefit of the ability to bring up these teams that are trying to get to that next level.
I agree. Mason is great. Pick us. All right, so a couple other rule changes that we have in there. So we know in any of the off-season events that the portcullis is gone, just due to, Frank talked about in the last show, just due to being too much of a safety hazard for future events. We also have the drawbridge is gone as well, too. And defenses are now selected in quals, right? Yeah, these fences are randomly selected and played. So there was a schedule actually listed out about all the defenses and where they're going to be at any given time, which is kind of nice to just kind of be able to plan ahead a little bit. I don't know how much it necessarily truly matters that way, but I have to admit, like, I'm honestly glad that there's no audience selection. It's kind of cool for like 2 times, but then every time it's always, do you want this one or this one? Everybody screams for the one they want, and you say, okay, it's going to be this one. Everybody's like, okay, great. So.
Yeah, it was kind of a weird little thing there, to put it nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at this point, so many of the robots were developed to go through all the defenses, and the portcullis and the drawbridge were kind of like 2 wild cards because they really affected teams' vision of how well they could see. And once you get rid of those 2, it's just the rest of them. I just don't think many people care anymore. Like most robots can go over all of them. I mean, there's a few out there who have their limitations, but for the most part, I mean, put the defenses in any order. It's not going to affect the gameplay.
Maybe we'll do a fake one at IRI. Anyways, people aren't watching. We'll try to get them to cheer and be like, suckers. You don't get the pick. Any other rule changes you guys want to talk about?
Not particularly. I just was actually... Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, Justin, this probably hits home with you. Tiebreakers are different. And those who don't know, Justin's on Drive Coach at 3015, who are world finalists this year. Tiebreakers in playoffs. So there are up to 5 potential matches, I think, before a tiebreaker happens. I don't know if we're going to see like in 2010 where we had to play 7 matches each. But what do you guys think about implementing the as non-biasly as possible the tiebreaker rule into IRI?
I think it's good. I think it gives the alliances a chance to play it out. And if it does become a little arduous after a few matches, then I think a tiebreaker is appropriate. But I do think it's good at this event at least to really let the teams hang it all out there and go for the win as 5 or 6 times. If that's what it takes, then that's what it takes.
Yeah, big thumbs up. That's all I have to say about it.
And I'm just trying to read. It says the elimination map with 3 tied match scores between 2 alliances will be replayed. If the 4th replay results in an additional tied match score, the published first tiebreaker rules will be used. No more than 6 matches will be played. So, yeah. Kudos to IRI for implementing that. And all I hope is that we're not there till 10 p.m. that night. I think we'll be fine.
I was hoping that the timing would work out a little bit, that they might release the preliminary match schedule just in time for this show, but it hasn't come out yet. Because usually we get the preliminary match schedule a couple days before. We haven't had it yet, so I am kind of waiting anxiously for that to come out, and then everyone will have a couple days to publish their predictions and run all their metrics and see who's got the best chance of seeding first. But didn't get lucky enough for that.
Yeah. All right, so let's make some predictions. Moving on into here, start out with who do you think is? And Mason, I know you talked about a couple of favorites before, but who do you think is most likely to take the number 1 seed at IRI?
Ooh, number 1 seed. I mean, there's so many good robots out there. I'm gonna go with 2056. I love those guys.
Me too.
They're robust, yes.
Always a good safe pick. I'm actually going to go with a team that's really impressed me all season in 195, the Cyber Knights. I think their robot has gotten better as the season progressed. They went 90-12 throughout the season, which is an incredible record. They played well most recently at Battlecry, like I mentioned in the recap. They've been a part of alliances that have put dozens of balls into the high goal. They know how to score high, and I think that's that will enable them to seed high. In my opinion, I'm going to go with them.
All right, so I have a tie between kind of two teams, but if I have to go with one, I'm going to go with the team I've been on their train for a long time and been talking about them a lot. 2481 Robotics. World champions this year. I think they're still a team that somehow amazingly still flies under the radar. Definitely have gotten more attention now they won the world championship with 330. But their robot is just very, very consistent. Are they the fastest robot in the world? Absolutely not, but they're one of the most accurate robots in the world. And I think that's going to prove them a lot of dividends.
So, Tyler, I give you a chance to talk about Wave a little bit. You guys must be getting excited to get back out there and play. Have you guys been working on anything since then?
Yeah, they're working on stuff right now. So yeah, Wave, honestly, we haven't had as much time as we'd like to implement some things, but a lot of us, I have to admit this year, we have, one of the nice things is we have a younger drive team, and our driver's not going to be there, unfortunately. We've trained another one up for this event, but what I told our drive team is that IRI is important. We want to perform the best we can, but let's start the focus on the future a little bit. So one of the things that our operator, who's also lead programmer student, she's been working on vision code and trying to get vision working for autonomous, and that's what they're working on right now. It has a lot of promise. We'll see. Trying to get that climber back up and going. We're going to be a top tier robot? Probably not. But I think we'll be able to show a good run. And if you want to talk about logo robots, at our regionals, our second one we were playing, we were scoring 9-10 balls ourselves. So we'll see if that pays off for us.
Awesome.
So
looking forward to it.
Mason, how about you, man? What's going on with 118?
Our students have been really dedicated this summer. The way our team works is that after championships, the mentors really give the keys to the team to just the students, and it's up to them to make what they want out of the rest of the year. And this group of students, we've got some really good seniors who don't want to go away, and some great underclassmen, even some amazing freshmen. Anyways, they've been coming in nonstop. I feel like every day after work they're in there, and they're just doing it on their own. They're fixing the robot. They're keeping it sharp. It's all tuned up. They dialed in some new shots, added a little bit more power to the catapult so they can shoot from further away a little bit more accurately. And the drivers have been training. I mean, it's like 4 days a week all summer long. So they're anxious to play. They didn't get to do as well at TRI, or Texas Robotics Invitational, that they wanted. So they're motivated to get out there and score.
Awesome. So, Mason, I do have one question for you, and it's going to go all the way back to the beginning of the year. Justin was on the show, and he talked a little bit about it. But just as there was obviously a kind of a distinct choice during the build season that needs to be made between a catapult style shooter and a wheeled shooter. I'm sure you guys prototype both. So can you talk a little bit about kind of what went into your decision making between the wheeled shooter and the catapult? Yeah,
we went hardcore on the prototyping this year. I mean, it was our whole team drive was to try to build every idea that we could come up with. So I want to say we had 3 different wheeled shooter prototypes. We had a couple different versions of a catapult, like a slinger, and it was neck and neck. We went pretty late into the flow, later than we usually like, to make the big decision. I'll throw in a little plug here. We have a build blog that we opened up to the public. It's not super polished, but you can find it at robonauts2016.tumblr.com. But if you look at that, you'll be able to see kind of all those different prototypes and how they were working. Ultimately, what it was is we got the idea of the pneumatic catapult and proved out early on that with just 2 cylinders, we could make the shot from a long ways away. And that was really compelling because it was so lightweight and such a simple way to shoot the ball. We thought we were solving problems at the time with the consistency. We didn't know how much of an issue that would be. We knew in 2012 that ball consistency was a major issue. And what we would do back then is we'd fire a ball. If it missed, we would change the shooter a little bit. The operator had a dial and make an adjustment and maybe score the next 3 balls. With only 1 ball in your magazine this year, it was we all thought catapult would be a lot more consistent. And that's coming from I was the guy who was on team wheeled shooter. I was pushing hard on that one. So it was tons of fun this year because we got to try a bunch of different ideas. Because we only had a one ball magazine, we could really experiment with a lot of different crazy things, and man, it was so much fun.
That's awesome.
So Justin, you don't get to get out of it, man. What's going on with 3015 for IRI?
So we actually graduated our co-driver on this past year. So being world finalist was a great way for him to kind of leave the team a little bit. So we've got a new co-driver that we've trained up they've been practicing quite a bit the past couple weeks. There was a picture I should have posted about our robot was almost completely torn apart. We had everything out of it just over the course of the season. Just got beat up, and it was hanging on by a thread in a few places. So we were able to lock everything down a little bit. We know with the 5-pound weight alliance, add some reinforcement to a couple places that we really wish we could have during the season. So we think it's strong, we think it's robust, and we'll go out and play. So we're looking forward to it for sure.
Awesome, man. So before we get into a couple more predictions, I do want to give that trivia question that we've been asking. So our producer Nick's going to be watching the chat, and you might have to do a little bit of research here. I think the first part's pretty easy, but the rest is pretty hard. So the first person to post in chat will get a free T-shirt. If you're at IRI, I think we'll be able to have AnyMark bring you one down like they did for our previous winner. If not, we'll ship one out to you as well. So here it is. It's a three-part question. Which team has the most amount of IRI wins? How many wins? And what years did they win them? So go ahead and post that. Go ahead now.
So to win the shirt, they have to get all three parts, right?
Yeah, you have to post all three parts. Okay. So whoever posts that first in chat, Nick will keep an eye on that, and we'll keep on moving on here. So a couple other things we alluded to with this as well is what, in regards to combinations for the alliances, that we have a few different options out there, and I think somebody posted a kind of a hierarchy of what they felt was best for shooter robots. But what are we going to see? Like, what is the optimal alliance? If you're the number one seed, who are you picking, or what kind of robot do you pick first at IRI? Mason, you've been the number one seed a few times. Why don't you start?
I think the number one pick is a scorer, someone who can play the whole game, going to have a good consistent auton shot. Who knows? Maybe a 2-ball. They're going to be able to hang at the end of the match, and they're going to play all offense. I think with your second round, you can go a couple different ways. I'm really feeling partial to the strategy that 148 and 1678 were playing in their division. What was that, Hopper? And they played on Einstein a little bit up to the semis. Was they put their third robot, who I think was Fusion 364, out chasing down balls and bringing them back and just dropping them off in their courtyard. I think that a strategy like that, where you're paying really close attention to where all the balls are on the field and trying to hoard them in your courtyard, could really pay off. Especially if you're getting a stockpile and then you're draining all those balls at the end of the match. So getting that extra robot that has that really fast intake, maybe not the best shooter, maybe they put some in the low goal to help you out, could be really advantageous. And I mean, there's probably going to be a lot of climbers available in that second round as well. So you might prioritize the climber really high. But 3 robots hanging on that bar, they don't fit together very well. We rarely saw 3 climbers together.
Yeah. So I'm gonna tag on that, and I completely agree. And I think not only because they did it in 2012 so well on Einstein, but I think 16 would be a great robot to accomplish that kind of rover strategy. Their drivetrain is incredible. They can move around the field so quickly, and if they can, pick, if they're not the first seed, if they are the first pick by an alliance captain, and they can pick up in the third round, this is IRI, another great score, and 16 can just kind of scoot around the field and pick up those errant balls that are kind of up for grabs and return them to their courtyard. I think that could be a devastating strategy. And I also think that 2-ball autonomous really is going to be key. I think there's a decent chance that the number one alliance has a 2-ball autonomous, and if they can scoop up maybe the only other really solid 2-ball autonomous robot that's there, 4 balls on the high going autonomous, all of a sudden that 12 tower strength doesn't seem so daunting. So we'll see if that makes an impact as well.
Yeah, I think that'll be interesting to see if we'll actually ever get to see an alliance that has successfully shoots in 4 balls in autonomous amongst 2 robots. I think it's, we're starting to see more and more teams post, right, that they can do a 2-ball auto. The interesting thing is how do they correlate that with their alliance partners? Because, can they do it through every category defense? Which ones can they do? And how is that going to correlate? And I think that will have, if your team's doing scouting or if you're a top seed, that's going to be a pretty important thing to know. I agree. Auto is very important at that. I'm really looking for, to me, I just want the best teleop shooters out there. And yes, Auto, I think is going to prove a lot of dividends, but I think whoever is the best teleop shooter and who can shoot from, I still think I'm still a big fan of if you're able to shoot from the outer works and shoot accurately enough where people can't block you. I still think that's a good win. Shooting from the batter or even scoring low goal. If there is defense, that's going to cause trouble. Now, if there isn't defense, though, now I'm actually all for somebody who's shooting from the batter or low goal robots because they don't really have to, for at least what I've noticed, they don't need to take as much time lining up in many cases. And, some teams have vision tracking and other mechanisms to allow them to shoot quickly from the outer works. But I think a lot of it's going to be how defense plays out, if there is any defense, on how good an alliance is truly going to be. But if I have a really good robot and I'm the number 1 seed, I'm probably going to pick a 2-ball auto robot that has the capability of shooting from the outer works. All right, so one of the things I want to bring up is last year we saw at IRI some ridiculously high scores posted, and a lot of that was because some of the rule changes. There's not so much of that this year in regards to, I don't think, is there any of it, right? Nothing is worth more points this year.
No.
So what are we going to see at IRI? So if you look at the high score, if I hop on the TBA, was 275 points by actually the world champions. It says in Carter Division Quarter 3 Match 2. So are we going to see 275 top? And if we do, what do you guys predict is going to be the high score?
Ooh. Well, not to take anything away from the defending world champs, but there was quite a few penalties, penalty points in that score. But I don't think that we're going to see necessarily scores that are much higher. Like Mason said, it's really hard to coordinate 3 people scoring. I think ball starvation is going to be an issue, as both alliances are capable of scoring. So there's going to be balls in the towers and behind the alliance castles quite a bit. So I don't think scores are going to necessarily be super elevated. I think you'll see much higher scores in qualification rounds just because there's less of that kind of that oddball robot that maybe isn't super consistent at making on the batter. I think a lot of that will go away. So I think the average qualification score may increase a little bit, but I'm not sure the elimination scores will increase a super large amount. But I've been wrong before.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I feel like I'm no statistician. I'm not Karthik, but in my personal experience, it seems like you see those high scores more often in the qualification matches at IRI when you have a situation where 3 powerhouses are paired up versus 3 robots that aren't paying attention as much. Hard to believe that that's at IRI, but sometimes it happens. And so those 3 powerhouses will just clean house. They'll have unlimited supply of balls, or they'll start some ball cycle where they're blocking the return route of the balls, and they just get to score for free. When you get to the eliminations, teams don't let you get away with that. You start to do something sneaky like that, they're going to send a robot over there to break that up. So the scores are, unless they put more balls on the field, then I think the elimination scores would be higher. But otherwise, I think they'll kind of stay just where they're at.
So one thing to bring up, I think that sometimes gets easily forgotten about, is in qualification rounds, you're not able to get those the capture points themselves. Mm-hmm. So is it 25 points, right, if you get a capture? If I remember top, that sounds right.
Yeah.
So actually, one of the interesting things is I think there's still potential in qualification rounds. Well, you're missing the 20 as well, too, from the defenses, aren't you? So that's a 45-point difference on that. But, if we were to add those in, I think if all things equal, I think we'd easily see a higher score in qualification rounds just because of the luck of the draw. But seeing it in elimination rounds, I think there's a good chance. I think we're going to see let's say we take out fouls, because in that high score match, I think there was 25 points in fouls. But I think you can see, sans fouls in the high 200s. I think we'll see the world record beaten. All right. So kind of wrap it up a little bit. we talked about some of the ultimate winners. I know Mason, you're 100 really on board with 2056. Any other last teams you think are really going to be the top contenders at the event?
No. I'm doubling down.
Doubling down. All right, Justin.
I'm sorry, I'm distracted real quick, just doing some quick research. Not that the TBA data is always super, but I don't think the world high score has ever really been set at IRI, at least according to TBA. So that's an interesting, maybe an interesting.
Well, I mean, last year there was. I mean, we were scoring in the low 300s, which was way over what the world record was.
Really?
Yeah, and I know in previous years too.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I wish that data was a little better.
Yeah, because I hate talking about like myself with teams. Last year in 2015, 2026 987 had the high score at champs, and I think it was 270 something, if I remember correctly. But at IRI, there was many matches over 300 points.
It'd be interesting to watch. Can't wait. So my two teams. I'm going to stick on the 195 train. I think a 195 2056 combination would be pretty deadly.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Yeah, it is hard to argue with that. I love 2056. I love Tyler on that team. He's a fantastic coach and just individual overall. I think if I'm going to go, and I lost my team list here. If there's a couple teams that pop up to my mind, and we talked about, I'm really on board with 36 and Robotics. They're huge fans of both those teams. A couple others pop in mind. I really liked your comment before about 16. Their drive train is seriously one of the most insane drive trains and just creative drive trains I've ever seen. And I think we're going to see a really, really deep run by them. Meredith was in chat earlier saying they did improve their control system a little bit. So we'll see how that works out. We saw some cool things from TechHounds posted recently. But yeah, top teams. I think 2056 is definitely going to be up there. I'm going to go with 2056 and the Robotics in the top areas pairing together.
Man, we're really putting 2056 out there. They better win.
Man, streaks are going, man.
Yeah.
They're 3 in a row, I think, right now. 13, 3 in a row, 13, 14, 15. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'm scared of them. We played them in the finals last year at IRI with Wave, and they're just good. I mean, they come out so ready.
That's first credit though too.
Yeah, of course. I mean, they got picked for a reason.
Yeah. One of the things I'll say too, and I don't mean to plug somebody else because we're already plugging something of our own in a little bit, but if you didn't get those 2056 T-shirts with the streak being broken, I know they're going to be selling some at IRI as well too. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and check that out. You'll have to hunt them down before they sell out. I know they went pretty quick at champs as well. All right. Any other last things about IRI you guys want to talk about?
I'm really just super excited.
I meant to mention this earlier, but Kryptonite, I don't know why they weren't on my hot list to talk about, but they basically rebuilt most of their robots. So, they didn't make an appearance at championships this year, and they've got a great group of students on that team who just stay motivated despite that turn down. So like we were kind of talking about with Wave, they're coming out with some surprises. So keep an eye on them too.
Yeah, way to put us up. So, Nick, I know that the audience can't hear you. We do have a winner for the trivia. Is that correct? I believe so. All right. So, the winner was DWOOLL94, DWOOLL94, for correctly guessing 469, 1, 2, 3, 4, with 6 IRI wins, 01, 02, 03, 09, 10, and 14. So go ahead, PM me your address, or if you're going to be at IRI, shoot me a PM in either Twitch or shoot me an email at firstupdatesnow@gmail.com. Once again, DWOOLL94. Congratulations. And way to do your research. I know a bunch of people frantically Googling for things, and not all the IRI stuff is in one spot, so that's nice. All right, we did have a question, Mason, everybody coming up, that I do want to ask, that I put at the end of the show. BMAR1257 in chat asked, what do you think of the strategy of low goal robots and elims scoring 3 to 4 low goals and then going to play defense a la 3683 on Galileo style? So is there a potential to see a low goal robot score a few balls and then go play defense at IRI, specifically in the elims.
Yeah, most definitely. That's having that robot that can be versatile. If this was my alliance and the match was coming up in 2 minutes, I would ask, why don't we swap your order? Why don't we put that robot on defense first and then have them come do low rolls towards the end of the match? And that way we can pull them off with as much time as we think we need. If we need 3 balls out of them, we'll have them come do 3 balls. If we need 6, we'll have them come way earlier. And if we don't need them at all, they can just keep playing defense up until the buzzer.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a great question, but it's definitely like, what's going on in the match. You have to make that decision. If all of a sudden there's a lot of balls maybe early and the other alliance doesn't have any, you want to get that early ball advantage and they want to put 3 or 4 in early, that's great. If it doesn't look, if everyone was super successful in autonomous, it doesn't seem like a whole lot of available balls, then they can certainly wait and maybe pick off a few at the end of the match. But I definitely think, like we talked about, it's kind of been a theme for the whole show. I think a low goal robot definitely is going to have a say with how IRI is decided.
Yeah, and as you guys mentioned, it's, in any type of high elimination situation, everything is so situational, right? And it really depends. And as we mentioned before, good teams adjust their strategies accordingly. And instead of just saying go play defense the whole match, this could be a great potential strategy to have where the robot does score a few balls low and then goes and plays defense, or vice versa, plays defense at first. Or at other ones we saw where a robot played more that middle. Why am I getting it? What's the middle area called the field? It's been so long now.
The neutral zone.
Yeah, neutral zone. Playing a neutral zone defense where they're essentially just almost like just stealing balls. You're playing keep away. So I think there's a great potential for something like that to happen as well.
They should just call it the middle zone, though.
They should. I like last 2015 was auto zone because you'd always say that little jingle.
Yeah.
Get in the zone. All right, everybody. I'm sorry, Justin. Did you have something?
I just wanted to add that, and we talked a little bit about it pre-show, but I think that with the looming 2 champs kind of on the horizon, I'm just really glad once again that this event exists. If we're not going to be able to see some of these high-profile teams, especially up here in the Northeast and 118 in Texas, we're not going to be able to see these teams as consistently as championship as we would like. I'm just really glad that this event exists, and it still gives us an opportunity to play with the best teams all over the world.
Well, Justin, that's a fantastic segue as we wrap up our show to talk about 1 champs, 2 champs, districts, and all that fun stuff. Got to show you guys a T-shirt that I got on here. It says 1 champ, make it first great again. That's right. So if you're interested in the 1 champ, or if you support 2 champs as well, too, we also have some district support in a new shop that we opened up. It's at cafepress.com/first updates now. If you're watching the video, Nick's got that up on the screen for you guys. You can see we have just a few different designs. If you guys want to suggest designs as well, too, we do have a few others in the pipeline. But go ahead and get some free swag. We only have it marked up a couple bucks just to cover any of our overhead on our end for stuff. We just want you guys, if you're interested in wearing it and supporting something, that's great. Maybe I'll wear this to IRI. We'll see. I haven't decided yet. But yeah, there's just some cool opportunities to get some swag in there. Probably not going to be able to get in time for IRI if you order, even if you do that like $800 shipping that they have. But if you want to get some first swag, go ahead. I shouldn't say first. If you want to get some first updates now swag, you go ahead on there. I almost got DCMA'd for it, but I fought against it and they kept it up. So happy to say if you want to get some apparel, you're welcome to do that, and we appreciate your support. So chat world, thanks for watching the show, and Mason, thanks for being part of the show, man. Really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been great. See you guys in Indianapolis.
Yeah, looking forward to
come up on Thursday, and anybody in the chat as well. We'd love to talk to you. All 3 of us will be there. Come down and say hi. Love just to talk about what's going on first. Anything you want to talk about, man, just come on. I know I'm an open book, and I can speak for Justin. I'm sure Mason is too. So depending if you know what he looks like, because he changes appearances about every 2 weeks. So.
We have an updated version right now, luckily.
Oh no, I'll have a huge beard by Thursday.
All right, guys. So if you do like the show, go ahead and tell a friend, post somewhere, just let people know about what's going on. You can subscribe to us through Twitch, YouTube, iTunes, RSS feeds, anywhere that you can. If you don't have somewhere you want us, let us know. We'll get it on there. We're just trying to make the show grow even more and make First a bit more loud as well. Huge thank you to all of our mods and contributors in our chat as well, too. And you can join us live, twitch.tv/First Updates Now. If you'd like to give us feedback, our email address is firstupdatesnow@gmail.com. Find any of our sweet gear, go on the Cafe Press Shop or see our website at firstupdatesnow.com. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed the show. And if you're watching live, stick around. We'll have just like a few minutes for a post show if anybody has any additional questions. Good night, everybody. Hope to see you at IRI.